As the luxury car idles at the red light, the world outside feels like another planet to Ethan Hale. Behind the tinted glass, he scrolls through messages about profits and meetings, detached from the reality on the street. A homeless veteran limps toward the car window, his voice raspy, eyes clouded with disappointment. "You'll understand one day, kid," he mutters before the light turns green. Ethan barely glances up. To him, compassion feels inconvenient, a distraction. But that brief encounter, unnoticed by Ethan, plants a seed of reckoning that will later tear through his carefully built world. At home, the contrast is staggering. Ethan dines beneath crystal chandeliers with his father, Richard Hale, a man whose empire was built on ambition and ruthlessness. Their dinner is quiet but heavy with tension. When Ethan suggests donating to social causes, Richard scoffs, slicing his steak as he says, "People are poor because they make poor choices. You don't fix weakness, you eliminate it." The words land like cold steel. Ethan looks down, knowing better than to argue. Love has never lived in this house. Only expectations and control have. The next night, fate intervenes. Ethan's sleek car breaks down near Skid Row, a world his father's money can't sanitize. While waiting for assistance, he encounters Lena, a young social worker handing out food. Her eyes burn with purpose, her voice sharp with truth. When she recognizes him, she doesn't hide her disdain. "You live in a palace of glass, but your soul's never seen a reflection," she tells him. The words pierce deeper than he expects. For the first time, Ethan feels something unfamiliar, shame, and an unsettling curiosity about the world he's ignored. Ethan's life has always been a carefully constructed illusion. Losing his mother at 10 left a void that his father, Richard, refused to acknowledge. Instead of comfort, he received a cold lesson. Grief is weakness, feelings are for failures. Wealth and status became Ethan's shield, a way to hide the emptiness inside. He learned to chase validation through designer clothes, high-profile women, and exclusive parties, masking the loss he never processed. Each achievement was a layer over his pain, but none filled the void. His life became polished, predictable, and painfully hollow. The only moment Ethan ever acted on conscience ended in humiliation and control. In college, he defended a janitor bullied by his fraternity brothers, an act that earned him expulsion. His father intervened, paying off the dean and labeling Ethan's integrity as weakness. That single act of moral courage was buried under shame and obedience. From then on, Ethan's empathy became a ghost. A part of himself he hid to survive in his father's ruthless world. The memory haunts him quietly, resurfacing now as the first cracks in his polished exterior begin to show. Now, at the family empire, Ethan's soul feels strangled. He smiles for PR campaigns, rebrands charitable donations, and sanitizes scandals with rehearsed words. When ordered to refrain the demolition of a homeless shelter as urban renewal, something snaps. He abruptly leaves the meeting, retreating to his penthouse, staring down at a city of opulence and suffering, realizing he's never truly felt pain. That night, he acts. Packing only a duffel and $20, he abandons the mansion, walking toward the streets he has long ignored. It is both an escape and the first step towards self-discovery. Ethan's first nights on the streets are a brutal awakening. The hunger gnaws relentlessly, each growl a reminder of how insulated his life once was. Fear lingers in every shadow. Strangers shift past him without a glance, treating him as invisible. He is robbed of the little cash he has, leaving him exposed and desperate. Rain soaks through his thin jacket as he curls against a cold wall, shivering. Every sensation, humiliation, discomfort, helplessness is raw and alien. For the first time, Ethan confronts the fragility of life. Experiencing pain he has long avoided and privileges he has always taken for granted. Chance reunites him with Lena, though she does not immediately recognize the formerly pampered heir. When her eyes widen with understanding, fury flashes. She assumes he is mocking the poor. But the bruises on his face, the exhaustion in his posture, soften her judgment slightly. She offers soup and a blanket, practical aid without sentimentality. Her eyes sharp with warning. If you're here to play poor, you'll quit by tomorrow. Her words sting, forcing Ethan to confront the gap between wealth and survival. For the first time, he meets genuine human concern untainted by flattery or power. Ethan adopts the name Eli and joins Lena's outreach program, learning the harsh realities of street life. She teaches him how to navigate danger, share limited resources, and listen to stories of hardship without judgment. He encounters individuals suffering from mental illness, job loss, and trauma, each story echoing his own emotional void, revealing the fragility and resilience of the human spirit. His empathy slowly grows, tempered by Lena's skepticism. When he sees his father's bulldozers arrive, poised to erase the community he has come to care about, Ethan faces a devastating truth. His family's power threatens the very lives he has begun to value. Ethan attempts to bridge his two worlds, desperately calling his father to plead for mercy for the homeless community. Richard's response is merciless, a cruel ultimatum: you're either a Hale, or you're one of them. Choose. Ethan's heart twists with conflict. The man who raised him to value wealth over compassion now forces him to pick between loyalty to his family or to the people he has come to care about. Each choice carries immense cost. Torn between privilege and conscience, he begins to understand the depth of his own moral awakening, feeling the first genuine weight of responsibility in his life. The physical and emotional toll of living on the streets catches up to Ethan. Weak, feverish, and shivering, he collapses in an alley, his body and mind failing him. Lena finds him and realizes he hasn't returned to the luxury he once took for granted. At the shelter, Ethan confesses the truth. He is Ethan Hale, the heir whose family empire threatens the lives of the very people he's been helping. The revelation shatters Lena's trust, the betrayal sharper than any physical wound. For Ethan, the walls of his carefully hidden dual life crumble in an instant. Lena's anger erupts. She slaps him and exposes his identity to the shelter board. Social media erupts with ridicule. Billionaire's son pretends to be homeless. Ethan becomes a national spectacle, mocked and humiliated. His father publicly disowns him with icy detachment. Ethan no longer represents Hale Industries. Suddenly, he belongs to neither world. Homeless, shunned, and alone, as he wanders the streets in silence. The irony is bitter. The very life he rejected now rejects him. For the first time, he truly experiences pain, isolation, and the emptiness he had hidden behind wealth and privilege. A painful crucible of growth. The storm hits with unrelenting force, turning downtown streets into rivers and trapping residents inside the shelter. Ethan doesn't hesitate. Through rain and debris, he dives into the chaos, lifting beams and dragging people to safety. Each moment teeters between heroism and disaster. The risk is immense. Exhausted and soaked, he continues until every resident and Lena are accounted for. When reporters arrive, cameras flash and questions fly. But Ethan refuses attention. "Don't make this about me," he says, stepping back into the shadows. The focus remains on those he saved, not the man behind the deed, highlighting the purity of his empathy. In the quiet aftermath, the hospital room becomes a stage for confrontation. Richard Hale, stoic and unyielding for decades, finally reveals vulnerability. His voice trembles as he says, "You could have died for strangers." Ethan meets his father's gaze, unflinching. "I'd rather die feeling human than live like your ghost," he responds. The words cut deeper than any corporate reprimand. forcing Richard to confront the emptiness of his own existence. For Ethan, this moment crystallizes the transformation from obedient son to autonomous human being. Courage, compassion, and moral integrity now define him, not wealth or legacy. The final revelation reframes the narrative entirely. Weeks before the media storm, Ethan had secretly transferred a portion of his trust fund to rebuild the shelter. Acting anonymously, the very money that saved lives came from him, unnoticed, without fanfare. While the world mocked the billionaire's son pretending to be homeless, his quiet actions were already protecting the community. The twist underscores his moral growth. Identity and status are irrelevant compared to meaningful action. Ethan's transformation is complete. He has become a man of substance, proving that true heroism is measured not by recognition, but by the lives one touches. Ethan steps into the public eye with a purpose far different from his father's. He renounces his inheritance, refusing the wealth and power that once defined him. Using insider knowledge, he exposes Hale Industries' widespread corruption, triggering legal action that culminates in his father's indictment for fraud. The empire that once symbolized control and oppression crumbles, and Ethan redirects his remaining shares to fund social housing initiatives through Lena's nonprofit. His actions redefine legacy, demonstrating that responsibility and empathy can reshape the world. What was once a tool of oppression now becomes a source of hope, guided by conscience rather than ambition. Through months of rebuilding and collaboration, Ethan and Lena cultivate trust and partnership. Lena remains cautious, reminding him, "You can't erase where you came from, but you can build what comes next." The words anchor Ethan's growth, reinforcing that transformation requires humility, patience, and dedication. Together, they reconstruct the shelter, this time as equals rather than savior and beneficiary. Each act of restoration mirrors Ethan's internal healing, and each life they improve strengthens his commitment to justice and compassion. Their bond evolves into a genuine partnership rooted in shared purpose, experience, and humanity. In his office, Ethan keeps a photograph of himself sleeping on the street, a stark reminder of his lowest point. It is no longer a symbol of shame or failure, but of resilience and transformation. Each glance recalls the lessons of vulnerability, empathy, and authenticity. The photo anchors his identity, reminding him that wealth and status are fleeting, but moral courage endures. It represents the man he chose to become when stripped of privilege, and guides his decisions moving forward. Through this tangible memento, Ethan internalizes that true success is measured not by inheritance, but by the lives one touches and the humanity one preserves. Months have passed since the storm, and the shelter stands as a vibrant symbol of resilience. Children run freely through sunlit courtyards, their laughter echoing across the grounds. The air smells of earth and blooming flowers, a stark contrast to the chaos Ethan once knew. Lena tends the garden, her hands caked with soil, but her face radiant with fulfillment. Watching her, Ethan feels a profound sense of belonging and purpose. He realizes that transformation isn't a single act, but a continuous journey, one measured by love, effort, and the community he now cherishes rather than by wealth or status. Ethan approaches the edge of the property where the alley once trapped him in despair. He kneels, removing his luxury watch, the emblem of his former life of privilege and detachment. Slowly, he buries it in the soil, a symbolic gesture of letting go. Time doesn't measure worth anymore, he whispers, acknowledging that true value is not defined by possessions or social standing, but by empathy, courage, and the impact one has on others. This act closes the chapter on his old identity while honoring the lessons that suffering and human connection have taught him. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting golden light across the shelter, Ethan rises and walks away, He doesn't return to a mansion, a symbol of isolation and hollow luxury. Instead, he moves through the city streets, seeing them with new eyes, the homeless, the working class, and the everyday lives of others no longer as distant strangers, but as reflections of shared humanity. Every step affirms his transformation. The camera of imagination would linger on his figure, silhouetted against the sunset, a man reborn, walking with purpose and compassion, leaving behind the life he once thought defined him.